So I did mine on the future of digital advertising. So just kind of did some research on what is the next 5, 10, 15 years look like in terms of digital ads. So I focused just on the digital side, nothing traditional. And with a specific focus on advertisers and marketers looking to increase their ROI and get a better sense of how their marketing dollars are producing results. So this just to set the stage, explosive growth in digital ad spending. So this is digital ad spending worldwide. And you can see that the rate of growth is declining slightly, but it's still almost double digits predicted through 2018. So point being, digital ad spending, they don't predict anything going anywhere. If anything, it will just, volume continues to grow at a very healthy pace. And this will lead to more focus on how do we get more bang for our buck as we're continuing to spend more and more dollars. So these are some of the key trends. I'm sure especially people in this room are all aware, but mobile is booming. You can see the pace, the spending on mobile in 2017 is predicted to be, the amount spent on mobile ads is predicted to be greater than on desktop ads by 2017. So that's right around the corner. 2016 about even. So that will be a hot focus area for looking to increase ROI in mobile. Digital video, the same thing. So platforms like YouTube, they predict quite a bit of growth, but you can see the rate is slowing. But again, it's like relative to 44 and 45% of growth. So even though it's slowing, it's still be healthy double-digit growth. Okay, so now I'll jump into some of the ROI pieces. So remarketing, this is the area where once you visit a site, they drop a cookie on your hard drive basically, and then they start tracking your behavior. I'm sure again people in this room are aware of that, but it's tracking the sites you're visiting, and they're trying to use that data to remarket to you when you visit their site or another site. So when you guys visit and look at some shoes, and then you go to a completely separate site and get an ad for those same shoes, this is what remarketing is. And the data I was able to find was that they're seeing 3 to 4 times conversion rates in terms of people actually buying. So these aren't click-throughs, this is conversion rates. So someone actually 3 to 4 times more likely to buy the product once they've been remarketed to, versus an ad that was not a remarketing ad, was just an ad based on other data points like your age and sex, etc. So point being is we can expect this to continue to be hot and find ways that get more remarketing, and you'll see more and more ads of things that you probably already looked at or indicated interest in. So this is another area. So in terms of the ROI, so remarketing is more on generating more revenue. This programmatic buying is more on decreasing costs. So as you know, the traditional model is you're a marketer, you want to place some ads, you go to an ad agency, you outsource it in a way and give them your marketing dollars, and then they go out and find the best place to put your digital ads on whatever site they feel meets your marketing goals. So you go to Omnicom Publicis and you say, hey, we're interested in targeting 18 to 24-year-olds in this region with the new LeBron shoe. And the ad agency will do that for you, and you pay like a pretty decent price to them to do it. And you don't have as much visibility into the success of those campaigns because they own that data, and then they'll give you reports on how their campaign was doing. At the end of the day, they have the incentive to be honest because of the reputation, but what you're starting to see more and more now is programmatic buying, where marketers, the advertiser will directly go onto these exchanges and look for ad space and buy it directly without the need to use an agency. So things like DoubleClick Bid Manager, the Ad Exchange, Atlas, there's a lot of technology platforms that are basically doing to ad buying what kind of like automated stock buying did to, like companies like Fidelity and Vanguard, where you can go on and buy your shares yourself. You don't need a broker to do it. So you're starting to see more and more. You can see, so U.S. advertisers will spend 30% of their digital display budgets programmatically by 2017, up from 19% this year. So they're going to start buying these ads themselves more and putting less money with ad agencies, and they think that like because there's more information they can go on, this inventory has all the data about these are the kind of demographics we see, these are the kind of customers that come to our site. It will be that more information for them will give them better decision-making power so that they'll put their ad dollars to better work, and that's like the theory of how it will reduce the costs. you can see a lot of companies in this space right now doing it, and like the analytics behind it, getting better visibility into how your ads are performing will be a way to lower costs, because you can say, oh, we're spending a lot of money on these sites, but we're not getting as many clicks or conversions, and you'll stop spending that money. I was reading an article about end of ad agencies. They're hypothesizing what will be the value of an ad agency, especially on the media buying side. So this isn't the creative side. There'll always probably be room for the creative side of building an ad that's engaging and fun. But in terms of media buying, the majority of ad agencies' revenue comes through media buying, where they get the budgets from the marketer and then they go out and buy the ads. But once marketers start doing them themselves, we start to see like quite a decline in ad agencies. So it should be interesting. I'm sure ad agencies themselves are thinking, how can they be more relevant? You're seeing a lot of mergers and acquisitions in space, and they're acquiring more technology talent because they're like, well, we can try to do what some of these technology companies are doing ourselves. Okay, lastly, so leveraging more predictive consumer data. So as you know right now, like when you're being targeted to, they're using data like age, sex, marital status, housing, your income, your existing buying habits. They have that data. That's a lot of the data they use now when deciding what ad to give you. And they're seeing that there's some studies being done that other data points might be more predictive in terms of your buying habits and what they're calling deep psychological profiles. So things like your values, your needs, personality type, whether you're like an extrovert, and I think we've all probably taken those personality tests, but that kind of data, they're seeing a lot of correlation with buying habits. Like for example, extroverts are more likely to respond to an ad for a mobile phone that promises excitement than one that's like promises convenience or security. That's fairly obvious, but they have a lot more correlations like that they're seeing. Like they also prefer Coke to Pepsi. So if you can get data on people and like get those like personality types, then you might have higher click-through rates and conversion rates if you base your ads on that data versus demographic data. Obviously, people probably won't take personality tests to give them this data, but the point is it's already out there. We're already putting so much about ourselves on social media and emails and everything. So once the algorithms get more powerful and they can start to try to extract these psychological profiles of you and give you ads on that, they're expecting to see higher click-through rates and conversion rates. Lastly, so micro commissions, agent context, Guy will have a lot more to say on this, but so ads, right? You're going to be on your phone or your desktop or your laptop, but once wearables become more prevalent, the point is they'll give you an ad. It's not so much an ad, but it's more like an encouragement to go do something while you're there in the right time. So if you're walking by an ice cream shop and you're wearing Google Glass or some other wearable, and it will know like the temperature that day, and will be like, oh, this guy might like an ice cream, and say, hey, there's like an ice cream shop offering a discount, like you should go check it out. And then you go into that shop, and then Google, for example, would earn a commission on that. So Agent Context, really interesting book. They're saying that they're seeing a lot more dollars coming through micro commissions versus just clicks or impressions, which is the standard payment process now. Yeah, that's it. Any questions? Yeah.
Did you look at all into how conversion rates differ for mobile versus desktop? 'Cause I know historically conversion rates for mobile have been a lot lower, and I don't know if those are starting to converge at all.
Yeah, they're still lower. I don't have the data exactly, but I know that when Google released in their earnings call last year, they had higher than expected conversion rates on mobile and click-through rates on mobile, but I don't have the specific data on that. But it is definitely lower, and especially because like on mobile you're less likely to, because it's the screen size, you're less likely to click through it. But yeah, I'll look that up.
Other questions?
So you didn't touch upon the privacy issue.
Yeah.
It's a big issue that people have concerns about.
Yeah.
Do you have any inside information to that? Like
Yeah.
how these two companies are going to deal with this issue? Like, are there going to be any regulations or changes in the way these ads are implemented?
Yeah, so I didn't focus on the privacy aspect too much. Obviously, it's a big deal. I agree with Scoble. So Scoble was one of the authors of Agent Context, that there'll be like a couple of big forces on why privacy. There will need to be a lot of work on making sure privacy is respected and there's a lot of controls around it. But what he argues, and I agree with him, is that the value to the consumer is expected to be pretty high, and so like if they're accessing your emails, if they're like accessing your like psychological profile based on your tweets, and if you tweet like I love, they might be like, oh, this person's a little more extroverted than introverted, whatever they do. But if you start getting ads, you start getting potential for micro commissions that are relevant to you, what they see is they've already seen research where people are like, oh, if there's actually value to me, like I'm less averse to the privacy concern. What's the problem is if they start releasing these things, you're like, how did you know that about me? And you gave me an ad that's completely irrelevant. That's when I think privacy will be a concern. So I think what the focus will be on how do we get algorithms that actually provide you value based on all this data, and then you as a consumer, once you're getting value out of it, they'll think your concern for privacy would be slightly less. In aggregate, obviously everyone's going to be different about it. And then Google, I'll speak to Google. They're taking a really big policy on being like, they want to be transparent. They want you to do like signed in. They want you to sign in whenever you're on Google. They're being pretty open about, hey, we're using your data, but here's how we're using it, and here's how you can opt out. And if you opt out, you won't get these services, and maybe you're fine with that. So I think outside of regulations, outside of like technology for security and privacy, I think it's really up to companies to like be transparent, show leadership in terms of this is what we're doing with your data, and if you don't want us to do it, here's how you opt out, and here's what you'll miss out if you do that, and make that really simple. And I think that's what they should be doing.
In doing this, what's the one thing that surprised you? Like before, doing this project and after doing it, is there anything that surprised you that you didn't think you would find, or what you found that was different than what you thought going into it?
Yeah. I think the article, so when I was working this summer in DoubleClick, ad agencies are a huge part of the business, right? They're like the biggest spenders. They get the highest treatment in terms of customer support and customer service. And there was a lot of talk this summer, and while I was also just reading up on some of this, about that slide I had on like kind of the end of ad agencies, and the fact that the value they provide is going to be eroded as technology allows people to do it themselves. And it's kind of surprising to be like, and some of these predictions were up to like even within 5 years. And when you're just talking about like tens of millions of dollars being spent right now with these ad agencies, and now that they're both a customer of Google, but Google now might start competing with them as DoubleClick programmatic buying grows. It's almost like, I was like surprised to see like you have such a big customer now, and you might be putting them out of business sooner than expected. Yeah, hey.
So yeah, as an offshoot of that, then you said that you think there's always a place for the creative side of ad agencies, but that's part of the ecosystem that the ad agency has, right? So creative is supported by the other functions that make more money, and so this might be more of a question of where you think the responsibilities are going to break down between in-house and these various services. But I don't see Google in the immediate term getting into the creative element of it, and I think that most companies in-house don't have the capacity to have that talent. So how does that responsibility break down?
So yeah, I don't think the tech companies will ever get in the creative side, but I think the ad agencies, the majority of the revenue is coming through media buying, and the creative side can still exist, but like if you'll have to lower your cost to be able to keep the revenue from the creative side, but also like maintain like your other operations.
I guess that's sort of my point, though. It's almost, the creative is almost like subsidized by.
Yeah. But I mean, at the end of it, you could just like the media buying division shuts off. You reduce a lot of your costs there, and they get quite a, in terms of their like actual margin. The creative side, they have very high rates, but it's just small volume. So you could spin it off, like for example, just have like a creative only agencies, and there are creative only agencies that like their cost structure is way lower, and they just have like 30 people in a building that are like the creative geniuses designing these ads. And like you could just have them doing that and like reduce the operations on their side. But I think there will always be a place for like, at least in the near term, for creative only agencies. And media buying is still going to be big. People will still want to use media buying side of these agencies, but you're getting a lot more tools to do it yourself that might be more cost effective, that are more cost effective, and potentially increase your ROI in terms of like better revenue and clicks.
Thanks, Sammer.
Thanks.
That's good.